It says live soon, so it's.
Okay, so we wait. So Pine Gap is one. What's the other one?
Okay, here we go.
There we go. All right.
Thank you, Brother Richard, for sitting down once again for Behind the Final Call cover story. I'm just messing up today, right?
Yeah, man. You kind of tongue-tied. You know.
This week, the volume is number 39. Number 8, December 3rd is the date on the paper. As I always ask, why this cover story? Boycott Black Friday.
Well, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you again, Brother Troy, for sitting down. You
Walaikum
know,
salam.
we're about 2 weeks as of today. We're about 2 weeks from the Thanksgiving holiday and what's called Black Friday, then the weekend, and then what they call Cyber Monday. This is a critical time of year for American businesses in terms of getting profits. This is the time of year that will actually, holiday spending for many businesses will determine whether or not 2019 is a profitable year for them. So since 2015, the 20th anniversary of the Myanmar March, the Justice or Else gathering, was held in Washington, D.C. 4 years ago. But what Minister Farrakhan introduced was this concept of redistributing the pain and economic withdrawal. In other words, instead of throwing our money away on senseless buying, on way too much spending than we should. As a matter of fact, right now, you've got about 35 million Americans who are still in debt as of right now from money they spent this time last year. So listen to what I'm saying. So you got millions of people, 35 million people that are in debt right now from money they spent last year, right? So we wanted people to again consider this idea of redistributing the pain, to consider this idea of using our dollars in a strategic way. So we wanted to kind of bring back to mind what brought this campaign, Up with Jesus, Down with Santa, is part of it as well. So it is the strategic use of our dollars. It is embracing spiritual values and embracing the true understanding and appreciation of Jesus, as opposed to this commercialized type of planning, strategy, and even manipulation that is being done to make us spend literally millions of dollars that we don't have, right? So we're now at the point where we can make an economic impact that will have a political, social impact as well. So in the past, this economic boycott has been successful. We are sure we'll be successful again, but we kind of have to understand why. And I think more and more people are now incorporating it. They're just embracing this idea that I don't have to spend money. I don't have to be so consumed with consumerism at this time of year. So we wanted to talk about that. The minister's article is also related to that. What is justice? Redistribute the pain through our economic withdrawal. So we want to look at that. But not only are we looking at, in this article, the withdrawal of resources, we're looking at now also connecting with black businesses. So over the past 4 years, what has grown is not just standing up against the enemy, but coming back and trying to strengthen our economic base among ourselves. And so this is, of course, related to literally Dr. King's final public speech before he was assassinated in 1968. And in that message, we usually hear, I've been to the mountaintop. What we don't hear is a whole other aspect where he talks about economic withdrawal, where he talks about redistributing the pain, where he talks about putting money into black insurance companies, black banks, and black businesses to strengthen our economic base. So all of that, right, all of that is in the article, and a related editorial deals with it, and the minister's article. So we hope that everybody will check it out. We're hoping that by coming out a little early, we give people, in terms of the story, we give a couple weeks for it to circulate. We give people time to think about it, research it, and decide what they want to do. And hopefully what they decide to do is to keep money in their own pockets, or even perhaps, instead of spending money this time of year, maybe this is a time where we can consider coming together with our dollars and deciding to launch a business venture in 2020. So we just want to get away from this profligate spending, this mindless spending, where people are manipulating our emotions and we're lying to our children about a white man coming down a chimney, and all these other falsehoods. So we say check it out, check out the main article, check out the minister's article, definitely, because it gives you a definitive declaration of what we're doing, what we're calling for, and why. And maybe you would want to join this as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We got to spend a little bit time on this, because a lot of people are like, well, why, should I be doing this? And I think one of the points that has, in many instances, has slipped by is that we're not just saying don't spend money. Really, don't spend money first. Don't spend money you don't have. Don't spend money you don't have with black people, and definitely don't spend money you don't have with people who don't look like you and whose benefit isn't for you. But if you're going to spend money during this time, we want to take those resources that we would normally be spending with people who aren't benefiting us and find those businesses that are in our community that are doing things that are beneficial and allow those businesses to grow. As you mentioned, and I think the article talks about it as well, is that this is a time period in which many businesses decide if they're going to live or die.
Right.
Yeah.
So, the thing that I think we have to consider is, why do we do what we do? Now, we get about probably a little over $1 trillion out of this economy. Certainly we can't spend all of it among ourselves because there's certain services we just don't provide.
Yeah.
But imagine if we could capture 10% of that. What does a $1 billion in reinvestment in the black community look like? What could $1 billion in reinvestment from us, among us, spark in terms of responses from other people, partnerships with governments that are using our tax dollars, right? So if somebody's using your tax dollars and you go to claim your money, you're not begging, you're acting like somebody that got some sense. Hey man, you got my money. It's supposed to be for my benefit. I want some of my money back. Here's what I'm bringing to the table, and here's what I want you to do so that I can increase the level of development, the level of prosperity in our community. So that's one. The other thing is, this society is void, always has been void, of spiritual values. So anything that can bring us back to trying to be more harmonious in our everyday life, anything that can bring us back to a greater understanding, love, and unity for one another is a good thing. So since this is the time of year when many of us have time off and many of us take vacations and many of us, our families gather, why not focus on family? Why not focus on community? Why not get to know your neighbor a little better? So that this becomes a community building exercise as opposed to an exercise in me throwing my money away. The other thing is, there's a tremendous amount of stress that comes up this year if you are into this holidays. When you're blessed to not be into the holidays, you'll be like me, trying to go to the store on Christmas Day and wondering why everything is closed, which I've done a couple times. Because I'm so far removed, because I heard a word.
Yes, sir.
And I heard a word of truth, and I accepted that word. And now, as a result of hearing first, reasoning with it, and then making a decision, I benefit. I don't worry, man, Christmas come and go. It's been 30 some years now. I don't worry about it. I don't worry about Christmas for my children, my grandchildren, nobody. And it takes you, man, out of that mindset. I'm not even that great a fan of Christmas music. Okay, I do like Donnie Hathaway. Donnie Hathaway gets me. But
now Motown did some stuff now.
Well, but Donnie Hathaway is the one. The rest of the stuff I can kind of stay away from. But so let us. The other thing is, this time of year after what's called Christmas, right? Which is supposed to be Christ Mass, a gathering or a celebration of the Christ. Well, how do you do that drunk? How do you do that eating pig, which is divinely prohibited? How do you do that by stealing somebody's husband or somebody's wife at the Christmas party? How do you do that? How do you have a Christ Mass by doing all of the things that Christ would be against? So as we get the right orientation, the right understanding, we can now examine what have we done over the year as we begin to kind of head into 2020. Self-reflection is good. You can keep some of that money in your pocket. You can save some money. The other thing is, and if you read the article, and you really should, it should be at finalcall.com. One of the things that one of the experts says is people are saying they're going to spend less. Some people they're looking at spending less money this year. So they said that could be either one or two things. It could be that people are recognizing what their financial situation is. And with that recognition, they're deciding not to throw money away. Good thing. Or, the expert said on the other side, it could be that folks are just now at the point where they can't do anymore.
Right.
Where their financial house of cards is about to fall. One of the other experts says, look, there's going to eventually be a recession, so you need to get ready for it. So these are signs, and I think that, again, do yourself a favor. Keep your money in your pocket. Consider alternative, not even alternative, you consider a celebration like Kwanzaa, right? Which is rooted in certain principles, and one of those principles is self-determination. And Kwanzaa starts, of course, the day after so-called Christmas, December 26th, right? So let us, again, read the article by the minister who gives us a really beautiful understanding. The last thing I'll say is something that I pointed out in my editorial, which is this. A lot of us are really afraid still to stand up. We believe that we will be punished. And very often, the enemy tries to punish us economically. I've been through that working for a nonprofit. They tried to do something shady and racist, and I stood up against them when they were trying to force out this black woman, and they didn't like it, so what did they do? They laid me off, even though they had money, and then tried to keep me from getting unemployment insurance, which I was due. But I was determined to be a man. But all of us, but if you're uncomfortable with taking that kind of position, guess what you can do? You can just not spend your money, right? And if millions of us take that posture, we're not going to spend our money, we can strike a serious blow. It doesn't put you in danger. It doesn't expose you to your employer or anybody you might be afraid of. And maybe you'll feel a little better. Maybe you'll feel a little better. Maybe you'll feel a little stronger. Because if we don't do this, what kind of future can our children expect? So part of what we have to do is that we have to act now so that our children will not have to engage in the struggle at the level that we have had to engage in. We can't put this off forever. We got to start confronting it in a mighty way now. And lastly, I'll just say, we know about the wealth gap between black and white, but some are warning that in a few decades, they're saying that black wealth will basically be almost pretty much at zero. We need to start stemming that tide right now, and these types of activities help us.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And I'm looking at the comments, and people are sharing their thoughts on this subject, a very important subject, of course. Others are saying that they are definitely relieved during this month, where they don't stress about it either. You know, they show love for their family and those people that they care for throughout the year. People are saying we need to invest in gold and put our money into something that's going to bring us something back versus being that which is a liability. So we
That's right.
thank you all and see your comments there. But also, as we stress, man, support black businesses.
Yeah.
We got to do that.
Well, we know that the black businesses, right, are most likely to give you a first chance, second chance, third chance. Because no matter where we are on the economic scale, one, studies have shown that even black children born into the middle class have a higher likelihood of falling out of the middle class. The other thing is, even the most successful ones among us may have somebody very close to us that's struggling. Whatever they're struggling with, it may just be economically, they're just not making enough. You know, and in these times, you don't have to be on drugs. You don't have to be somebody who's irresponsible. But in this day, man, an illness can take you out. In this day, the shutting down of a business can take you out economically, right? So there's a lot going on that we can consider as we decide what we're going to do. And so the more we strengthen black businesses like this one, the Foodie Spot, where we're located at 7350 South Stony Island Avenue in beautiful South Shore neighborhood of Chicago, the more we can strengthen neighborhood and other businesses like this, we begin to open up opportunities for our children. We can then invest with one another to promote a future for ourselves, man. This country's shutting down, and in the article, it talks about hundreds, if not maybe a couple thousand stores that are literally shutting down. So, you know, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that the black man must do something for self or suffer the consequences. So we're suggesting, we're really imploring our people to begin to learn and to begin to do a little more before this thing shuts down totally. And we're really forced to do it. Let's do it now where at least it seems like we got a little time.
Yes, sir.
We don't know how much we got, but let's maximize today and build something for tomorrow.
Well, I see somebody's asking, can we discuss why we should boycott Thanksgiving? And I guess what that is Christmas as well.
Well, we know that what's called Thanksgiving is really a day that really marks the genocide of the indigenous people of America. It is a day that is really a mockery because when the Europeans first landed in New England in Plymouth Rock, they could not have survived without the Native Americans who showed them how to survive the winter. Well, of course, we know that ultimately these people, Puritans if you will, actually turned on the Native Americans, slaughtered them, took their land, and just decimated them. So how do you celebrate a Thanksgiving in the face of that kind of genocidal history? See, once you know what you're dealing with. And we should be thankful every day of the year, not just one day. And then what is Thanksgiving? Look at all the commercialism tied to Thanksgiving. Now you got to get a turkey. Now you got to have a big meal. You know, you got to watch some football. You know, you got to get your beer and your drink on. You got to have some cigars. All of this foolishness, right? So we need to reject all of that and embrace the truth, because the truth is what we need, and the truth is what will help us get where we need to go.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm going to step back on one of the articles, which is reparations. Of course, Sister Carmela, I think she needs some attention right now. So we're live right here at the Foodie Spot.
Why you can't see me?
And she's trying to find out. There's a little delay, so we're in the middle of the show, and yes, the owner of the Foodie Spot just decided that she wants to stand here. You want to say anything?
Sorry.
Since
No, I actually don't. I'm gonna go ahead and work. But
Okay.
I just couldn't understand why my face
Right.
was
Okay.
Thank you.
Even though she acts a little strange, the food is good. The food is still good.
It's not strange.
The food isn't strange. She may be.
She's a unique personality.
Yeah, that's why he's the editor. He knows how to put those words together.
Because unlike anybody like her.
Thank Allah. But we're going to jump back.
I'm not going to comment on the last
the
word.
article that we find on page 2, which actually connects to this.
Yeah.
Reparations fight expands as advocates push local and state governments to right wrongs done to black people. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Now, this is really, I think, is a very interesting story, because I think that unlike any other year, we have seen this topic of reparations rise to a certain level. And we've heard about it at the national level with H.R. 40, which is the proposed federal legislation to appoint a commission that would study whether or not blacks should receive reparations. That's at the federal level. We've had presidential candidates on the Democratic side. Almost all of them, at minimum agreed that it needs to be studied, right? But in addition to that, we wanted to show how not only are people operating on the federal level, but they're operating on the local and the state level, advocating for reparations. So to me, this is like, they say you can't put the genie back in a bottle. So I think all of this is good because it promotes a level of discussion. It brings us now to a level of responsibility because you have people really admitting now that we deserve reparations. Now, there was a time when this was considered to be a very radical idea. It's not that. And so we know that there's always an attempt to misdirect. So we got to be aware of that. But I think at least now we're having discussions at a certain level. And that opens the door in my mind to eventual negotiations on this topic. So there was a meeting here in Chicago and talk about an ordinance, a local ordinance, and we had other people from across the country that are working on this thing, like I said, at the federal level and not the federal level, at the state and the local level. So all of that's good. All of that's good, and we need to continue to follow this. And to me, it doesn't. It's less important what we don't agree with, in my view, at this time. But fundamentally, we agree that our people deserve some type of redress, some type of compensation, whatever that may be, whatever form that may be, for the injustices done to us. So we need to continue this discussion, continue to learn about it, continue to be involved in it, and to see how we can get actively involved. That's a very important part of what we should be doing.
So, thank you, Brother Richard. Sister Carmela has to vacuum now, right?
Well, cleanliness is godliness. So
cleanliness is definitely godliness. Praise to Allah. So,
at least that they vacuum around here.
Cleanliness is
like
godliness.
some other places.
So we just want to go and cover a few more items. Of course, there's a lot that's going on, and I'm not the biggest follower of politics, but it seems like it's a whole lot of debates going on this year. Is this a record, or am I just a little more sensitive to it?
Probably a little more sensitive. But again, I'm trying to think how many Democratic.
You're trying to count and see how many it is now?
I thought the last count was, I think the last count was 18 total for Democrats. Maybe it's less than that, because you've had some people drop off.
Right.
And you have some people that have not qualified to be part of the major debates, right? So we had a major debate down in Atlanta on the 20th. So it was good. We need to stay tuned. There were some folks, this was at Tyler Perry, it was held at Tyler Perry Studios. Some folks were not happy because they felt that it should have been more oriented toward black folks. But again, the candidates will only do what we forced them to do. So that's on the one side of the political equation. On the other side, you have this impeachment probe against Mr. Trump, which is ongoing and it's dividing the country and on and on. So check out the articles and stay in tune. Nothing wrong with a little entertainment. but keep some information along with your entertainment so you can know what's going on.
It's definitely a lot of positivity that's going on, and even in the midst of all of the struggles that we're going through and the opposition that's there, it's a blessing to see. And I think it appears that the Final Call has taken even a more conscious effort to make sure that those things that we're doing in the community are even lifted more, which is a wonderful thing to see. We have, of course, further coverage with the Supreme Captain of the Nation of Islam, Brother Mustafa Farrakhan, and that there was some coverage last week.
Yes.
And we have, of course, Be More in the house.
That's right.
Black Men Unite in Baltimore. There's an article dealing with brothers and sisters involved in chemistry. Can you give us a little bit of the positive energy that's flowing through our community?
Brother Mustafa Farrakhan, who was our student Supreme Captain of the Fruit of Islam, and the son of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, was honored recently at Abdul Masjid Kareem. At Masjid Abdul Kareem Hassan Islamic Center in New Haven, Connecticut, right? Brother Mustafa spoke some pretty powerful words, so we wanted to come back this week and just hear from him. So we got what he said, and it's a beautiful message and a beautiful picture as Allah continues to work with us to bring us to a point of understanding as Muslims and those who are really from the tree of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So it was a really beautiful, beautiful evening, and you can read about it at finalcall.com, and you can get your edition of the paper and your digital edition. Black Men Unite in Baltimore has been a weekly thing where the brothers have been going out into the streets and recruiting Christians to go out with them to try to increase the peace and lessen tension. So, this is what we do. This is our work. This is across religious lines, which is important as we decide to forge a future for our people. The other thing that's interesting is that we had a meeting of black chemists and chemical engineers in St. Louis. Mm-hmm. We actually have black chemists and chemical engineers. So we wanted to talk a little bit about their group, what they do, so that we can see what our potential is. That our potential is not limited to being drug dealers. It's not limited to being rappers. It's not limited to being strippers. It's not limited to anything except the limits of what we understand and know, and the limit of our unity and the limit of our determination. So I think it's always very important to showcase the variety of black life. So that's what we try to do each week in the Final Call in some way or another.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. I haven't been keeping up. I know I should feel ashamed, but what's going on with Byron Allen and Comcast, of course, there's an article on page 17 that discusses Puffy or Sean Diddy Combs and his involvement in that and what he has to say.
Well, I mean, we saw this statement that was released by our brother Sean Diddy Combs, and I thought it was a really courageous statement, because what we're looking at now, right, is this. Byron Allen, a black man who owns a network, right, he now has a suit before the Supreme Court, right? He is charging Comcast with not doing business with him, depriving him of the right to do business, right? He is standing on one of the first pieces of civil rights legislation ever in the country from the 1860s. Now, this is very important, right? This is very important. So what we are looking at is a case where Comcast, in this fight with Byron Allen, what Mr. Allen has said, and civil rights groups have agreed with him, the way that they are attacking this case to try to win it is by saying that this civil rights legislation, that the burden of proof must be race is the only factor determining what they did, the only, not a factor. Well, how difficult will that be to prove? So Sean Diddy Combs weighed in on this, and he is in a sense, a partner with Comcast, with his Revolt TV network. But he stood up so strongly to say, hey man, don't try to use me and my experience to justify what you're doing. He said that he was undercapitalized with his Revolt TV network, but he talks about the importance of preserving this legislation and this legislation in particular was supposed to help guarantee the newly freed slaves the right to contract and to do business. So I mean, it's a great article. I mean, I really respect it, brother, for taking this position. And we just have to be more courageous, and to see, because obviously he sees this beyond his own personal benefit. He's saying, don't use me to try to justify what you're trying to do against my people. And he lays it out beautifully, and we really salute him.
Praises for Allah. Thank you. There's definitely a few articles dealing with international news. What you got for us?
Well, one, we got the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Truth to Defend, which you got to read his article. But internationally, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been indicted on corruption charges. So we'll see what that means for the government of Israel, which he has been accused of many things over the years. So we'll see how that impacts their government and what's happening in Israel and in the Middle East. The other thing is that, you've got the Security Council, UN Security Council, and it's kind of being paralyzed when it comes to the plight of the Rohingya Muslims. These are Muslims in Bangladesh and Myanmar who are being forced out, and it's a really tragic situation. They're trying to make them stateless people, and they're really suffering. So we want you to read that. Then we got a roundup of what's happening in the Caribbean. But again, check it all out. Get a little bit of everything so you have an idea of what's happening with us.
Thank you, Brother Richard. Of course, we did not cover it all. I don't even think we covered half of what's in the paper this week. But there's definitely a lot going on. Hearing in the background, Savior's Day is coming up in February in Detroit, Michigan. You're not going to want to miss this.
No, you don't want to miss this.
A lot going on in discussion about separation being the best and only solution. You want to make sure that you're following what's going on with that. But man, this is a beautiful and great day to be living in right now, and we have to take our own destiny in our own hands right now at this point in time.
Yeah.
What else you got for us, Brother Richard, before we close
I would
out?
just say, again, support institutions that support you. Support the Final Call. Support the brothers when you see them out, because they're trying to deliver a word to you and something of value to you and something that has changed their lives.
That's right.
So just take a minute and check out what they're offering, because we're not a newsletter. We're not just a limited publication for Muslims only, but our mission is to the whole of our community and trying to put into perspective what's happening with the black world, not only in America, but what it means in relationship also to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, to the warnings being voiced by Minister Farrakhan. So we need to understand the day, we need to understand the time, and part of the mission of the Final Call is to give us a better understanding by bearing witness to the truth, that we can come to a decision for ourselves about what we need to do.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I know there's been a little discussion going on. I don't see any questions, just comments. But if there are any questions, we'll give you a few seconds as we're closing up. Of course, please visit finalcall.com. Get your digital subscription to the Final Call newspaper. Subscribe to social media on our platforms.
Absolutely.
We're on Instagram. We're on
Instagram. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. And again, the stronger we become, the better we can serve. There's so much more that we really would like to do, but we need resources. We need people that are actually professional writers. So if you're a young person in particular who has been trained in the area of journalism, and you working maybe not in your field, or if you're still in school but you really want to get into this field, then get in contact with me, because we're always looking to help promote that next generation of journalists. Very important. And we're looking at young people that can help us with some of these things, these emerging technologies.
Yes, sir.
You know, so we have great opportunity. You just got to seize the time. As we're taught, big fields await the wide awake man and woman. So if you woke,
yes,
come on with it.
Thank you. Until next time, Behind the Final Call cover story. Assalamu alaikum. Peace.